everyone, welcome back to Worth the Talk channel. I'm May. I'm so glad you're here. So this video is talking all about things that I did wrong, if you will, but mainly some mistakes that I made as an indie author publishing my first book, Guide for the Next Girl, and kind of what I recommend to you if you're an indie author, and just mistakes that you can avoid doing that I made. Okay, let's get into the video. So like I said, I wrote this book called Guide for the Next Girl, and this is the back, and this is the front, and this is the inside. Also, I read my own books, that's why you can see that, but I don't know if you can see the beginning of it, but it has like pink in it, and it's really cute and pretty. It's perfect, y'all. But anyway, so I wrote the book, and so a little backstory about how I wrote the book, and I'll get into my first mistake when publishing this book. So I started writing this book during my senior year of high school. Really started writing this in high school. And I had the idea around 2021, and I finally started putting it to effect, and then finished up in 2022, and then a little bit 2023. Beginning of 2023 was doing last minute stuff. So if you read my book, you know at the end I have all these like fun pages and such. That's where I started to do that, beginning with 2023. And then midway through 2023, I published my book, and then here I am, and it's been out since September. So that's really fun. But the mistake I made with that is, first off, is that it's been a blessing that I started writing this in high school, but I didn't really build up any profile or any marketing where people could have gone to know who I am. I have this channel Worth the Talk, but I also have a TikTok as well, and so on that I have like a little over 100 followers, but I did not completely develop. So I made the channel talk about things that we're talking about, but I did not build up any type of platform where people could get to know me. So I would post, oh my gosh, I wrote this book, or here's my process, can't wait for you to read it. But no one really knew who I was. So I immediately went to go market the book without giving someone a reason why they should buy my book. And so that's the number one reason, is I didn't market it enough. So if you really want to market your book and you really want to do really well in this industry, make sure you set up a successful profile. Obviously be authentic and be yourself, but I recommend you start up a YouTube account, a TikTok account, Instagram account, a Facebook account, a Goodreads author account, and set up these things to start interacting with people who have similar interests. If you were looking for a fantasy, the sci-fi and fantasy group, set up and start interacting with those people, posting about your book that's interactive, that get people excited, share your recommendations and then say, hey, if you like this, here's what I'm writing, or here's what I created. If you're nonfiction like me, then you can say, hey, I wrote this book, and then this is why you should buy it, and kind of set up a little bit about yourself, get into your groove and meet people who you want to buy your book. I did not do that as well, and I did it too late. So I published my book in September, and I started the process officially in August. So over the summer, I got someone to do one edit of my book, and I was gonna get someone to design my book, and then she, very sweet, but she was just charging so much money. And I'm I'm already paying for all of this stuff, and I don't have that extra much to spend. And so I decided to just do the cover myself, which I think for the first book, I think it turned out cute. The only thing is I think I'm gonna redo it in the future. You can't even see it on this, but I have words around it that says you are redeemed, you're worth it, you were beautiful, and all these things around it, which I think is so encouraging. But I got these services done during the summer, but I did not start marketing my book until around August. I posted a little teaser on my Instagram in about end of May, and then on my TikTok account I posted it in July about, oh my gosh, writing this book, can't wait for you to read it, but I didn't post in advance. And when you're getting a cover done, you're writing a book, you should have the cover done in advance. And this is why it's important, is because of pre-orders. And I started my book, I didn't know anything about pre-orders or about self-publishing or publishing world or anything, and so I didn't really notice until later on. And then towards the end of August, I wanted to set up pre-orders for my book, and I looked up to do that, and it was you have to do it at least a month in advance. And so I did not get to get any pre-orders for my book, and I had to hey, can't wait for it to come, teasing the book, and no one was able to pre-order. So set yourself up for success. My second mistake, like I said, is that I did not prepare months in advance successfully for this book to be out there so people could know about it. And so I waited last minute, could not pre-order my book. That's a mistake I made when publishing my book. And I did not market it well enough because I didn't know how to. And so these are things I'm giving to you, just suggestions, because I want you guys to thrive. And I know so many indie authors create great, amazing work, but it's not marketed enough, or it's not put out there where people can read it. And they were wondering why these amazing books are not selling. And so I just want to get in here and just tell you, here are mistakes I made, and encourage you with that. So if you are interested in just starting up a book, do not do what I did. Set yourself up way in advance. It's 2024. If you love to release a book this year, I highly encourage you. But for me, I wanted to do it around my birthday. So my birthday is in September. So I was so blessed enough to release my book literally my birthday weekend. It was so cool. But the thing with that though, the thing about my birthday weekend was that I try to release my book. Also, I published through ingramspark, which I will be talking about in just a moment, but I published through them. One thing ingramspark did not tell me, which obviously I guess I should have known this, but when I tried to publish through KDP, they said it takes up to 72 hours. So for ingramspark, I was like, okay, well, when I read this disclaimers and stuff, it never said anything about that. So when I clicked enable distribute, it's gonna distribute immediately at midnight, because I was literally 11:55 at the computer, getting ready, logging in, ready to click enable distribute at midnight and get it rolling, because I've told all these people comes out at midnight, it's gonna come out, check in the morning. And then at 12 literally o'clock, I was clicking it and enabled it, and it said it would have to take time to enable, and so it would take up to a few days, and I had no clue. So I was last minute, what am I gonna do? So this is my crazy story with my book, and it was not working. It was okay. Okay, let me rephrase that. It did work and enabled it, but it was taking days to process. Luckily for me, it did publish on my birthday, so 2 days later, but overall I had to wait. So my thing is, I decided I'm going to release my book on this day. I've been planning this for months. It has to be on this day. So what I did is I have a website. Currently it's down right now. It's up, but it's also down because I'm making some edits to it. So if you look at this book now and you try to look at my website, it's a little wonky right now. But I was on there and I was I have an account, and I created a whole website for this book, and I have the premium, so it allows an option to do payouts where you can sell stuff on your website, and then you can just go from there. And so I was I'm gonna do that. So that is what I did with my book. I wanted to publish it on the 9th of September. It did not work out as planned. So what I did is I did release that in the middle of the night. I went on and I created, saw the payout. I started creating listing, and then later on that day I officially had it up, and I told people who wanted to buy my book, because there's people who were literally I was texting you, people who want to buy a book, so that is what I did. And I started selling my book on their website. I had a few people buy it, and then from there I got to just immediately go out there and sell my book. And people did get it a little bit later than people who bought it regularly with Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It did come a little bit differently with that way, because I had to order these author copies, and it was taking longer to come than normal. But everyone who bought my book on my website, because of that exchange, and it would come a little bit later than Amazon, I did promise to send handwrite copies in every single book. So I just not on mine because it's my copy, but I handwrote up top a message to everyone who bought my book, and it was so beautiful. So that's all about my horror story. So if you are planning to publish it in ingramspark, then I highly recommend that you make sure that you do it days in advance. Days. Do it at least 3 days in advance. I was lucky, and on the second, almost third day, which happened to be my birthday, it decided to go on and approve it and enabled it. But it took some time. So if you're wondering what ingramspark is, I decided to go with this company for a few reasons. Number one, ingramspark is an on-demand publishing company, which means that you don't have to sit here and have a huge copies, 100 copies of your book like they used to have. You can literally just set up a listing and then publish with them, and they will distribute, if the carrier picks it up, to Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, Target, Walmart. You can even do an option for global, which I did. And so it's a really awesome thing to do. I personally love it. But the only con with ingramspark is that also, if you're an indie author and if you're looking to be indie, it is hard to get into bookstores if you're not traditionally published. And so I went to my local Barnes & Noble store and I was like, hey, like I would love to have my book on the shelf, so how do I go about that? And she looked up my ISBN number, which is a number that's custom to your book, where you have your own custom number and it's in a database, and that's where people can find your book with your unique number. And she looked it up and she was like, we would love to have your book, but it's a print on demand and I can't get copies in stock, but if you want to order it now, I can get it in and you can come pick it up. And so I was not able to get my book, so that's the only my only cons in ingramspark, besides it's a little hard to navigate, especially with setting up ebooks and things of that sort. But the great thing about it is you just set up a listing, you set up an account, you get your book on there, and it enables distributations. Yeah, I butcher that word all the time. And then whoever picks it up. Luckily for me, I got picked up by Walmart, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and then a few other random ones I've not heard of. And yeah, so that's all about ingramspark. That's who I publish with. I would love to in the future publish with KDP. That's on my list definitely, because I hear amazing things about them. I just did not want to be tied down to Amazon. But the amazing things, I did not know this until recently. Shout out to my girl Bethany. If you don't know her, I will tag her in the show notes because she's amazing and I get like all my tips from her. But she said you can publish with multiple different publishing companies, so ingramspark, Lulu, Barnes & Noble Press, all of these, and it's so amazing. So yeah, so that's all about my journey with publishing with ingramspark. And like a lot of the mistakes I made, like I said, is that I just personally just really struggled with marketing the book and designing the cover. It took me some time with dimensions. I created an amazing spinal, and then it's like you have to fix your dimensions, and so I've never done this before, so I had to make it small because my book's not very big, if you can't tell. And so there's just a lot of things of that sort that I had trouble with within the book. And so I'm going to give you last minute things that I personally struggle with my book, and then I'm going to tell you the highlights of publishing my book and why it's amazing. So with God for the Next Girl, one of the things that I did is I hired one set of an editor, and she did a whole layout of the book. Here are really good things you should add, here are things you should change, here are some grammar mistakes in this. And so I did one copy for editing, and then she looked through my book, and then that was it. And after I added a few additional things, such as you can tell, the end chapters and things of that sort. So I did that, and so I had to go back and edit again with the new changes I made, which I just come up with more ideas, and then from there I obviously have to continue because I love it. And so it was very hard because I had this book and then I got it edited, and then I made more edits, and so I edited again, and I missed over things. So that's why these notes are in here, because there are some things in here that I did get to a nice lady to lay out my book, but I noticed that in the layouts, she didn't change this, and so there's a few things that personally there was mistakes throughout the book. And so I have 4 mistakes in the book that were error mistakes, whether it was forgetting a period or forgetting to capitalize something. And that was something that pay for a good editor, because I personally editors are amazing, but I don't have $400, $300, $500, $600 to get my book edited on top of other things. And so at the time, I had to do one layout, one editing service, and then I did one layout, and then I had to kind of do the rest. And so I really just, if you're an indie author, pay for a good editing service, even if it's just proofread or even if it's just first draft. Really at least look into more than one if possible. But if you could only get one, get a really good one, because my lady was really sweet, but I wish I would have picked another service with her. Now I'm going to get on here and just tell you, here are a few things that I want you to know if you're going to be publishing your first book. Number 1 is ISBN numbers are no joke. So my number obviously here is on my barcode, but with publishing my book, the ISBN number, I got it on Broker. I think I'm going to butcher that, so I'll put it right here. But the ISBN number was $125. I'm going to be straight up with you. And so be aware of that. If you're publishing your book, you can get a free one with KDP, and you can get a free one with ingramspark. But with ingramspark, if you get a free one through them, you can only publish through them. And for me, I knew I wanted other options because I want to actually publish with other publishers in the future with this book and future books, and so I don't want to be tied down to just one. But yeah, be aware you can get a free one. But I think personally for me, because I wanted with making future changes to this and future books and making more books, I want to just be a little bit more personal and just have my own number. But like, you should know that ISBN numbers do get expensive. With any authors, you're paying for basically everything. So beware of ISBN numbers. Another thing is, like I said, beware of the cost. With publishing your book, you have to pay not only for editing, you also have to pay for cover design, and you also have to pay for potentially marketing, depending on your method. If you get a book agent with that to help you market, I'm not book agent, I mean book coaches. There are book coaches you can pay for to help you market your book. And also, ingramspark does not do anymore, but they used to have an option where you had to pay $50 to just list your book. So beware of going through other companies that you may have to pay for additional costing. And even like, you don't have to do this, but I got my book laid out, and this is just an example of how one page looks. And that's the previous chapter, and then this is the new chapter. And so if you get your book laid out, or if you're writing a children's book and you get illustrations, like, that's going to cost money, so beware of that. And here are some amazing things that happened in my book that I was not expecting. So with my book, I only got a few sales. With publishing my own book, I didn't really market well. I did not know how to market my book well because I'm new to this, but I'm still learning, I'm still growing. So with the few amazing sales I got, I was so grateful for it. But with this book, someone from Germany actually bought my book, and so that was my first international sale. And they bought, I don't know if it's guy or girl or how old they were or what they used it for, but they bought 2 copies of my book, which was so amazing because they somehow found my book and they bought it. And it was such a blessing to me because, like, there's someone out there in another country who was reading my book and hopefully enjoying it. And so I'm so grateful for that, and just that was an amazing thing of it. Another awesome thing was I accomplished something big. I was looking back in my notes from 2021, and it was one comment, and it was talking about like wanting to publish a book, and I did it. And it was like a whole page, and it had just like me just writing out like a little what's inside of a chapter, so like a page in a chapter I would have had. And I think that is just so amazing because I published a book at 19, and I am almost 21, which is crazy, and I've already published my first book. And so it is so amazing. And so that has been such an accomplishment for me. A few people have bought my book. There's actually an amazing lady, she's a family friend, who bought my book, and I saw her and she ordered something, and then she was like, I read your book and it was so amazing, and now my daughter's reading your book and I just love it, and it was written so well. And so that was really sweet. So just hearing like people reading my book. Another amazing thing is I'm doing a book signing with my book, and so that's been a blessing. Is after I told her I wanted to get my book in stores, she said, put you on the list because we do author signings. So she put me on the list. I was not able to go through the first one because they were booked up, and it was funny because I accidentally went in that day with my grandma, which I normally go later on, but I went earlier on, and I didn't realize it was the day of the book signing, and I saw a whole long table of authors. It was crazy. But then she reached out and she was like, hey, like, we have an opening, I think you'd be good for this, so I'm doing a book signing. And so there's been blessings within this whole mess. I've learned so much throughout this whole process of just publishing a book, and it's so crazy, but it's so beautiful. So I just want to let you know, if you want to release a book, I highly encourage, whether you go with traditional publishing, which has great benefits, or you go with indie publishing and you decide to publish your own book, credits to you. I published my own book, and it is such a blessing. And so, yeah, I highly encourage you. Also, 2 things I forgot to say. First, I'm going to show you the book. I'm going to tell you about it just in case you're interested. And the second thing is that with ingramspark, I forgot to say, and I don't know about if other publishing companies do this because I'm used to publishing with KDP. But with ingramspark, I want to say is that they do payouts in advance. So no one told me as an author. I thought that when you, like, I did it because I wanted to publish a book, but I think it's cool that you get paid for your own writing. But no one told me that with ingramspark that you get paid 3 months in advance. So I released my book in September. I sold a bunch of copies, and I didn't get that payout until December. So you get paid out 2 to 3 months in advance, and no one told me that. So if you're interested in publishing with that company, or just interested in publishing in general, you should know know that payouts do not come until months later. So it's cool later on, you're like, oh, look, I got paid. But that is something you should know. And if you're interested in my book, basically Guide for the Next Girl is just a book talking about my guide to the next girl and the next generation of women who are going to read this. So I talk about faith in this book and my own faith. If you're not interested in faith, you can always skip by that chapter. I have 10 different chapters. Like I said, one of them's on faith, one of them's on boys, one's on friendships, one's on confidence, one's on just sisterly advice I want to give you. They're all different conversations and just my advice to you within them, because so often we go through this life without a guide, not a guide to love, not a guide on friendship breakups, not a guide on any of this stuff. And even though I don't include this all in the first book, but the second book, I think it's just so amazing, because even as I turn to this page and it's talking about passions, and I said like some little ways to make a difference. Getting to your local government, I talk about donating money to organizations you're passionate about, writing Christmas cards to give to local homeless shelters, and I just have like a whole long list. And this is my guide to the next generation of women and girls all around the world. And so you don't have to agree with the things I agree with, you don't have to agree with everything in this book, but I hope every girl who just reads this book, or even if God picks it up, hey, like whoever reads this book leaves encouraged and leaves with a new resource to take on to encourage in someone else. So that is a little bit about my book. I hope one day to get this in shelves, even if just one shelf. And I am just so excited I made this video. This video was all over, but that's how my journey was. There's some really great highs with me sitting down, literally in Barnes & Noble, sitting down in my living room, like just editing my book and writing out my book, to finally getting to go do a book signing and having someone from another country buy my book and having someone review my book and just all this really awesome stuff. So it's still a journey, but there's been about 2 people who came up to me within the last few months after I published my book personally who said, I want to publish a book, but I don't know where to start, or I want to publish a book, but like I don't know if anyone will buy it, or I don't know like how to start this. Like, my encouragement to you is do it. Publish that book. Go out there and encourage the world. There's books I have read that have changed my life, and there's books that have just been amazing, and I hope that within my book someone could read a sentence out of here and it can change their life. And so yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. I would love to talk more about just publishing and my journey, because it is worth talking about. No one really helped me on my journey. I had to look on YouTube for amazing resources who just helped me, which I can link some in the show notes. But I really want this to be a place where people feel encouraged. Like I want you to leave encouraged, knowing that if you want to publish a book, you have this video as a resource. I can give more detail on how to write a book and more detail within that if you are interested. But regardless, you're gonna do great out there. Go publish a book if you want to publish a book. Love you all. Make sure to subscribe and like this video. Bye.